Dr. Sarah Chun had seen many strange things during her 15 years aboard the deep space research vessel Meridian, but nothing quite prepared her for the sight of the massive alien warrior standing in her medical bay doorway. The creature, she immediately corrected herself. The being towered nearly 8 feet tall, its crystalline blue skin reflecting the sterile lights like polished sapphire. 4 arms ended in hands that could easily crush her skull, yet they trembled slightly as the alien approached. "Human," the alien spoke, its voice carrying the harmonic overtones that marked it as one of the Zephyrian Empire's elite guard. "I am Commander Vex-9 of the Imperial Fleet. I insist you examine my body." Sarah set down her tablet and studied the alien more carefully. The Zephyrians had been humanity's reluctant allies for 3 years now, ever since the peace treaty ended the border wars. Their warriors were legendary throughout the galaxy, beings of incredible strength and endurance who could survive in the vacuum of space for hours and whose crystalline skin could deflect energy weapons, yet this one seemed different. "Commander." "With respect, I'm not sure I understand," Sarah replied, keeping her voice steady despite her racing pulse. "Our medical exchange programs don't typically involve direct examination of Zephyrian physiology. Your people's biology is quite different from ours." Vex-9's 4 eyes, 2 larger primary ones and 2 smaller secondary ones, focused intently on her. The alien's breathing was labored, Sarah noticed, and there were hairline cracks running along the crystalline surface of its left shoulder and neck. In a human, such markings might indicate severe stress fractures, but Zephyrian physiology was largely a mystery to human science. "You do not understand," Vex-9 said, and there was something almost desperate in the harmonic undertones. "I have observed your species for 3 rotations years, as you call them. Human physicians possess something my people lack." "Which is?" Sarah asked, gesturing for the alien to take a seat on the reinforced examination table she kept for larger species. "Intuition," Vex-9 replied simply. "My people approach medicine as we approach warfare, with logic, precision, and established protocols. But humans—" The alien paused, its secondary eyes studying Sarah while the primary ones looked around the medical bay. "Humans see patterns where others see chaos. You make leaps of understanding that should be impossible." Sarah had heard this before. Human medical intuition had become something of a legend among the galactic community, though she'd always assumed it was exaggerated. Human doctors did have an unusual success rate in diagnosing complex cases involving alien physiology, but Sarah had attributed that to human flexibility and willingness to think outside established medical frameworks. "What exactly is wrong, Commander?" she asked, pulling up the basic Zephyrian physiological data on her workstation. It wasn't much. Their people were notoriously secretive about their biology. Vex-9 single quotes S crystalline skin shifted to a deeper blue, which Sarah recognized as a sign of emotional distress. "3 days ago, I began experiencing what your language might call episodes. Periods where my strength diminishes, where my skin becomes brittle, where I can barely function. My people's physicians have run every test, applied every treatment protocol. They find nothing wrong. But you believe something is wrong." "I know something is wrong." Vex-9's voice carried a harmonic that Sarah's translation implant rendered as absolute certainty. "In 2 days, I am to lead the defense of Kepler Station against the Void Raiders. 12,000 lives depend on my performance. If these episodes continue—" Sarah nodded slowly. The Void Raiders were a nomadic species that had been hitting frontier colonies for months, always striking fast and disappearing before reinforcements could arrive. Kepler Station was a critical supply depot. Its fall would leave an entire sector vulnerable. "And you think I might see something your physicians missed?" "I think you might see something they could not see." Vex-9's primary eyes fixed on her. "Will you help me, human?" Sarah was already reaching for her medical scanner. "Of course. But I'll need you to trust me completely. Human examination methods might seem unconventional compared to Zephyrian protocols." "I am prepared." Sarah began with the standard scans, though she had to adjust the equipment for Zephyrian physiology. The readings that came back were indeed puzzling. All vital signs appeared normal. The crystalline skin showed proper molecular alignment. and the alien's four-chambered heart system was functioning perfectly. "Tell me about these episodes," she said, moving closer to examine the hairline cracks she'd noticed earlier. "When do they occur? What triggers them?" "There's no pattern," Dex-9 replied. "Sometimes during combat training, sometimes while reviewing tactical reports. Yesterday, one occurred while I was simply standing in my quarters." Sarah frowned, running her fingers along the cracks in the alien's skin. They were warm to the touch, warmer than the surrounding crystalline surface. "Do these cracks hurt?" "Pain is not the correct term. They feel wrong, as if my own body has become foreign to me." That phrase stuck with Sarah, foreign to me. She'd heard similar descriptions before, though never from a Zephyrian. "Commander, I need to ask you something that might seem strange. Have you been having any unusual dreams lately?" X9's secondary eyes widened, a sign of surprise. "Dreams are a human concept. Zephyrians do not dream." "But if you did dream, what do you think they would be about?" The alien was quiet for a long moment. "I have been experiencing visions during my rest periods. Images of places I have never been, battles I have never fought. My physicians say this is impossible." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. She'd encountered something similar once before, during her residency on Mars Colony. A patient had described exact symptoms: physical deterioration combined with impossible memories. The cause had been almost unthinkable. "Commander, I need to run one more test. It's going to seem very strange, and I need you to trust me completely." "What kind of test?" Sarah walked to a sealed cabinet and retrieved a device that looked like a cross between a magnifying glass and a complex sensor array. "This is a quantum resonance scanner. It's experimental technology that we use to detect quantum entanglement in biological systems." "For what purpose?" "To see if you're really you." The X9's four eyes all focused on her simultaneously. "Explain." Sarah took a deep breath. This was going to sound insane. 3 years ago, during the border wars, there were rumors of a Void Raider weapon that could create quantum duplicates of enemy commanders. Perfect copies, but with subtle flaws that would eventually cause the copy to break down while feeding information back to the original. The harmonics in X9's voice shifted to what Sarah's implant translated as horror. "You believe I am not real?" "I believe you might be both real and not real," Sarah said carefully. "The quantum scanner will tell us if your quantum signature is consistent with a single entity, or if there's evidence of quantum entanglement with another version of yourself." She activated the device and slowly moved it over the X9's form. The readings that came back made her stomach drop. Clear quantum entanglement patterns, strongest around the areas where the hairline cracks appeared. "Commander," she said slowly, "I think you're a quantum duplicate. The original X9 is somewhere else, probably in Void Raider custody. You're experiencing his memories and sensations, but filtered through quantum interference. That's what's causing your episode's moments when the quantum link becomes unstable." The alien stared at her for a long moment. "This is impossible. Such technology does not exist." "It didn't exist 3 years ago," Sarah agreed. "But the Void Raiders are more advanced than we thought. The question is, what do we do about it?" The X9 stood slowly, all four hands clenching into fists. "If what you say is true, then the Raiders know our defensive plans for Kepler Station. They will be waiting for us." "Worse than that," Sarah said grimly. "They're counting on you to lead the defense. You'll walk right into their trap, and they'll have the real X9 feeding them information about every move you make." The aliens' skin shifted through several color changes, blue to deep purple to almost black. "Then what do you suggest, human physician?" Sarah was already reaching for her communication console. "We're going to do something that your people would never think of, but that humans excel at. Which is, we're going to cheat." The X9's harmonics carried what her implant interpreted as confused amusement. "Explain this cheating." "Simple," Sarah said with a grin that probably looked predatory to alien eyes. "We're going to use their own quantum entanglement against them. If you can sense what the original X9 experiences, then we can use that connection to feed false information back to the Raiders." Make them think they're setting up an ambush when they're actually walking into ours. The alien commander studied her for a long moment. This plan is highly risky. If we are wrong about any aspect of this quantum duplication, thousands will die. Commander, Sarah said seriously, in my experience, the most dangerous thing you can do when facing an impossible situation is to play by the enemy's rules. Humans didn't become the galaxy's premier medical troubleshooters by following established protocols. We got there by being willing to try things that seem impossible. X9's skin slowly shifted back to its normal blue. Very well, human physician. Show me how your species see. The bridge of the Meridian buzzed with activity as Sarah explained her discovery to Captain Morrison and the senior staff. X9 stood beside her, the alien's imposing presence making the already cramped space feel even smaller. Let me understand this correctly, Captain Morrison said, leaning back in his chair. Commander, X9 is a quantum duplicate created by Void Raider technology. And you want to use this connection to feed them false intelligence? That's the simplified version, yes, Sarah replied, pulling up the quantum resonance scans on the main display. The beautiful thing about quantum entanglement is that information flows both ways. If the Raiders are using the original X9 to gather intelligence, we can use our duplicate to send intelligence back. Lieutenant Torres, the ship's communications officer, frowned at the data. Dr. Chun, quantum entanglement doesn't work that way. You can't send specific information through an entangled connection. The quantum state changes are random. Sarah smiled. This was exactly the kind of conventional thinking that limited other species. That's true if you're thinking about it like a traditional communication system. But quantum entanglement in biological systems follows different rules. The duplicate isn't just connected to the original, it's constantly synchronizing memories, experiences, even emotional states. She gestured to X9. Commander, tell them about the vision you had yesterday during our planning session. X9's harmonics carried undertones of uncertainty. I experienced a memory that was not mine. I was in a detention facility, being interrogated by Void Raiders. They were asking about human defensive capabilities. Exactly, Sarah said. You were seeing through the original's eyes. But here's the key, the connection works both ways. When you make a decision, have an experience, or form a memory, it also gets transmitted back to the original. Captain Morrison was beginning to understand. So, if our duplicate X9 believes certain false information, the original will believe it too, Sarah finished. And the Raiders will base their attack plans on that false intelligence. Commander Vex, the ship's Zephyrian liaison officer, spoke up. His skin showed the deep green of skepticism. Dr. Chun, this plan requires precise control over Commander X9's memories and experiences. Such manipulation is not only dangerous but possibly unethical. It's not manipulation, Sarah said firmly. It's collaborative deception. Commander X9 will know exactly what we're doing and will actively participate in creating the false memories. X9's primary eyes fixed on Commander Vex. My people have a saying. Honor is meaningless if there is no one left alive to remember it. 12,000 beings will die if we do nothing. If there is a chance to save them, I will take it. Captain Morrison nodded slowly. What do you need, Doctor? Time and resources, Sarah said. I need to map the exact nature of the quantum entanglement. Figure out how to strengthen the connection when we want to send information. And create a series of false memories convincing enough to fool Void Raider intelligence. Over the next 18 hours, Sarah worked with a dedication that impressed even X9. The human physician had transformed the medical bay into a combination laboratory and theater, using holographic projectors to create convincing false scenarios while quantum resonance equipment monitored the entanglement connection. The key, Sarah explained to the X9 as they prepared for another session, is that the false memories have to feel authentic. They can't just be imagined scenarios your brain, or whatever the Zephyrian equivalent is, has to process them as real experiences. The X9 studied the holographic recreation of Kepler Station's command center that Sarah had constructed. And you believe this will work? I believe humans have one significant advantage over every other species we've encountered, Sarah said, making final adjustments to the hologram. We're natural storytellers. We can create convincing lies because we understand the emotional truth that makes them believable. The first false memory they implanted was simple. A conversation between X9 and Captain Morrison about relocating the main defensive fleet to the far side of Kepler Station. Using the holographic projectors, Sarah recreated the bridge of the Meridian and had X9 walk through the conversation as if it were really happening. The quantum resonance scanner showed immediate activity. The entangled connection was transmitting the experience back to the original X9. It's working, Sarah said excitedly. The original just experienced that conversation as if it really happened. But creating convincing false memories was more complex than Sarah had anticipated. The first few attempts were rejected by X9's consciousness. The alien's mind could tell the difference between real and artificial experiences. We need more emotional authenticity, Sarah realized. Commander, what would make you genuinely concerned about human defensive capabilities? X9 considered this. Your species' unpredictability. Zephyrian military doctrine is based on logical, methodical approaches to warfare. Human tactics often seem chaotic, but they are surprisingly effective. Sarah nodded. And that's our angle. We'll make the raiders believe that we're planning something typically human, chaotic, unpredictable, and seemingly impossible. The new false memory was more elaborate. A heated argument between human and Zephyrian commanders about a desperate plan to use the Meridian itself as a weapon, ramming it into the Void Raider flagship while the main defensive fleet attacked from an unexpected angle. This time, X9's emotional response was genuine. The alien truly was concerned about such a reckless human plan, and that emotional authenticity made the memory convincing enough to transmit perfectly. The raiders will expect us to sacrifice the Meridian in a ramming attack, Sarah said, monitoring the quantum resonance patterns. They'll position their forces to counter that threat, leaving them vulnerable to our real attack plan, Captain Morrison added. He'd been monitoring the session from the bridge. Dr. Chun, I have to admit, this is either brilliant or completely insane. With humans, those aren't mutually exclusive categories, Sarah replied as they continued the process. Sarah began to notice something unexpected. The quantum entanglement was affecting X9 in ways beyond just memory transmission. The alien's personality was slowly changing, becoming more human-like. Commander, Sarah said during a break between sessions, how are you feeling? X9 paused, 4 hands touching the areas where the hairline cracks had first appeared. Strange. I find myself thinking in ways that are not typically Zephyrian. Earlier, when we were planning the false memory about human defensive tactics, I found myself, what is your word? Hoping that the plan would work rather than calculating its probability of success. Sarah frowned. Is that troubling to you? It should be. Zephyrian warriors are trained to suppress emotional responses in favor of logical analysis, but I find that I do not wish to suppress these feelings. They make the experience more vivid. More human, Sarah said softly. Yes, more human. The implications of this were staggering. The quantum entanglement wasn't just creating a duplicate, it was creating a hybrid consciousness, part Zephyrian warrior and part human perspective. And if that hybrid consciousness was being transmitted back to the original, Commander, Sarah said urgently, when you have your visions of the original X9, do you see any evidence that he's changing too? The X9's secondary eyes narrowed in concentration. Now that you mention it, yes. In my last vision, I saw him questioning a Void Raider interrogator's logic rather than simply providing the information they requested. This is highly unusual behavior for a Zephyrian prisoner. Sarah felt a chill of excitement. This was better than she'd hoped. Not only were they feeding false intelligence to the raiders, they were potentially turning their own asset against them. We need to accelerate the process, she said. If the original X9 is developing human-like unpredictability, The raiders might start to suspect something is wrong. The final phase of their deception was the most complex, creating a false memory of the complete battle plan for defending Kepler Station. Sarah used every holographic projector available to recreate the station's command center, complete with holographic representations of human and Zephyrian officers. "This has to be perfect," she told X9. "One inconsistency and they'll know it's fake." The alien nodded, its skin shifting to the deep blue of determination. "I understand. But Dr. Chen, there is something I must tell you. What is it?" "In my last vision of the original, I saw something troubling. The Void Raiders are not just planning to attack Kepler Station. They intend to use the original Vex-9 as a weapon against his own people." Sarah's blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" "They have implanted some kind of control device. When the battle begins, they will use it to force him to turn against the Zephyrian defenders. The psychological impact of seeing their greatest warrior betray them will break their morale instantly." The room was quiet for a moment as the implications sank in. "Then we have to make sure the original X9 is ready for that moment," Sarah said finally. "Commander, I need you to trust me one more time. We're going to implant one final memory, not a false one, but a real one." "What memory?" Sarah smiled grimly. "The memory of this conversation. The original Vex-9 needs to know that he's not alone, that we know about the control device, and that he has a choice." The Void Raider fleet emerged from hyperspace exactly where Sarah had predicted they would position to intercept the fictional ramming attack that existed only in false memories. Through the viewport of Kepler Station's command center, the massive black vessels looked like hungry predators circling their prey. "All ships, this is Admiral Zhang," came the voice over the comm system. "Execute Plan Omega. Repeat, execute Plan Omega." Sarah stood beside Vex-9 in the command center, both of them monitoring quantum resonance readings from a portable scanner. The duplicate alien commander had insisted on being present for the battle, despite the risks of quantum feedback during combat stress. "The original is experiencing confusion," Vex-9 reported, studying the scanner readings. "The Void Raider commanders are positioning their forces based on intelligence that contradicts what he can observe." Commander Vex, coordinating with the Zephyrian defense fleet, looked up from his tactical display. "Dr. Chung, the Raiders are leaving their left flank completely exposed. They're concentrating everything on defending against your fictional ramming attack." "Then it's working," Sarah said, but she felt no satisfaction. Everything now depended on whether the original Vex-9 would be able to resist the Raider control device. When the crucial moment came, the first wave of human fighters swept down from above Kepler Station, catching the Void Raider left flank completely by surprise. The alien ships, long and angular like crystalline daggers, began to turn to meet this unexpected threat. "They're adapting faster than anticipated," Admiral Zhang's voice crackled through the comm. "We need the Zephyrian fleet to engage now, while they're still confused." But the Zephyrian heavy cruisers remained stationary. On the tactical display, Sarah could see them holding position as if waiting for something. "Commander Vex," she said urgently, "why aren't your people engaging?" Vex's skin showed deep purple, the Zephyrian color for distress. "They are waiting for Commander Vex-9 to lead the charge. It is tradition. No Zephyrian fleet engages without their primary war leader." Sarah's heart sank. Of course. The original Vex-9 was supposed to lead the counterattack, but he was a prisoner on a Raider vessel, probably being prepared for whatever treachery the Raiders had planned. "How long will they wait?" she asked. "Until he gives the order, or until he is confirmed dead?" Vex replied grimly. Sarah looked at the duplicate Vex-9 beside her. The alien skin was cycling through rapid color changes as quantum feedback from the battle reached him through the entanglement connection. "I can feel his distress," Vex-9 said suddenly. "They are bringing him to their command ship's bridge. The control device is activating." On the tactical display, a massive Raider dreadnought began moving toward the Zephyrian fleet. Sarah realized this had to be their flagship, and if the original Vex-9 was aboard, He would soon be forced to broadcast a surrender order to his own people. "Commander," she said to the duplicate Dex-9, "I need you to do something that's going to sound insane." "At this point, Dr. Chun, I have come to expect insanity from your species. I need you to take command of the Zephyrian fleet." Dex-9's 4 eyes all focused on her simultaneously. "That is impossible. I am not the real Commander Dex-9, even if I could convince them to accept my orders. I lack the tactical knowledge and experience to lead a fleet engagement." "No," Sarah said, her mind racing. "But you have something the original doesn't have right now, freedom of choice. And you have something uniquely human that you've absorbed through our interactions, which is the ability to improvise when the plan falls apart." Before the X-9 could respond, the Raider Dreadnought's communications array lit up. A familiar harmonic voice echoed across all frequencies. But there was something wrong with a mechanical undertone that made Sarah's skin crawl. "Zephyrian Fleet," the voice of the original Dex-9 said, "I command you to stand down immediately. Surrender your weapons and prepare to be boarded." The effect on the Zephyrian ships was immediate and devastating. They began powering down their weapon systems, their formation breaking apart as individual captains hesitated between following orders and following instinct. "The control device is fully active," the duplicate Dex-9 said, his harmonics carrying overtones of anguish. "I can feel his struggle. He is fighting them, but the device is too strong." Sarah grabbed the quantum resonance scanner and began frantically adjusting its settings. "Then we give him more to fight with. What are you doing?" "Amplifying the quantum entanglement. If we can strengthen the connection between you two, maybe we can give him access to what you've learned about being human." The scanner began emitting a high-pitched whine as Sarah pushed it beyond its safe operational parameters. The X-9 staggered, his skin shifting to patterns Sarah had never seen before, swirling mixtures of colors that seemed to move independently of each other. "I can feel him more clearly now," the X-9 gasped. "The control device. It works by suppressing emotional responses, forcing pure logical compliance. But human emotions are chaotic, unpredictable." "Exactly," Sarah said. "Logic can be controlled, but human stubbornness is a force of nature." Through the quantum link, she could sense what was happening aboard the Raider flagship. The original X-9 was experiencing a flood of new sensations: hope, determination, and most importantly, the very human concept of spite. The control device had been designed to suppress Zephyrian emotional responses, not the chaotic mixture of alien warrior instincts and human rebelliousness now flooding through the quantum connection. "It's working," the X-9 said suddenly. "He's fighting back." The mechanical undertones in the surrender order suddenly stopped. When the original X-9's voice came through the CUM system again, it carried pure harmonic fury. "Zephyrian Fleet, disregard previous order. I am under enemy control. Attack pattern Sigma, execute immediately. For the Empire." The response was instantaneous. 12 Zephyrian heavy cruisers lit up their engine arrays and charged directly at the Raider Dreadnought, their weapons blazing, but Sarah wasn't watching the main battle. She was focused on the duplicate X-9, who had grabbed the command console with all 4 hands. "Commander Vex," X-9 said, his voice carrying the harmonics of absolute authority, "patch me through to the fleet command frequency." "Sir, you are not technically Commander Vex," X-9 interrupted, and his harmonics now carried something that made the hair on Sarah's arms stand up. "I am X-9, war leader of the Zephyrian Empire, defender of 12 worlds and victor of the Battle of Titan's Edge. Patch me through immediately." Vex's hands moved automatically to comply. Whatever the duplicate had become through his quantum connection with both his original self and Sarah's human influences, it was undeniably the presence of a war leader. "All ships," X-9's voice boomed across the fleet frequencies, "this is your commander. The human tactical doctrine calls this a fluid engagement, adapt to changing circumstances with maximum aggression. Forget your formation protocols. Forget your careful strategies. Today we fight like humans." "Sarah," felt a chill of pride as she watched the Zephyrian fleet abandon their traditional, rigid formations and begin attacking with a creativity and unpredictability that sent the Raider forces into complete disarray. The duplicate X-9 turned to her. Dr. Chun, the original is requesting immediate extraction from the flagship. Can your people reach him? Admiral Zhang, Sarah said into her unit, we need a rescue operation on the Raider flagship. The original X-9 is aboard and has broken free from their control. Impossible. That ship is surrounded by Raiders. Then we do something impossible, Sarah replied. It's what humans do best. What happened next would be talked about in military academies for decades. The human assault ship Defiance broke from the main formation and began a suicidal run directly at the Raider dreadnought, just as the false memories had suggested. But instead of ramming the enemy ship, it executed a maneuver that defied every rule of space combat using its shields as a deflector. It bounced off the dreadnought's hull like a billiard ball, coming to rest in the ship's docking bay. Extraction team away, Admiral Zhang reported. Dr. Chun, that was either the most brilliant tactical maneuver I've ever seen or the luckiest accident in human history. With humans, Sarah said, echoing something she'd told Dex 9 days earlier. Those aren't mutually exclusive categories. The battle was over in minutes after that. The Raider fleet, faced with opponents who refused to follow predictable patterns, found their superior technology useless against human creativity and Zephyrian determination combined. 3 hours later, Sarah stood in the medical bay of the Defiance as they brought in the original X-9. He was unconscious, with what appeared to be a complex neural interface device attached to the base of his skull. The duplicate X-9 stood beside her, strangely silent. Are you ready to meet yourself? Sarah asked. I am ready to meet the being I was copied from, the duplicate replied, though I suspect we may be very different now. When the original X-9 awakened after Sarah removed the control device, his first words were unexpected. You must be the human physician, he said, his harmonics carrying undertones of gratitude. I experienced your memories during the battle. Thank you for teaching me how to be stubborn. Sarah laughed. That's not something I usually have to teach. The original X-9 turned to look at his D.